Okay, you will need to go to the App Store. App Store, and you type in BAIBOARD, buy board. And it should say get, so you're going to need an Apple ID, but it is free. You hit the arrow and hit get. Mine says installed because I already have it installed. Once it's installed, it should be found right around here. I always save it to my toolbar because I use it so very frequently. And when you open it up, it'll look like this. Start a Meet. You would open up the buy board program, and I'm going to create a board. And you can create this board ahead of time, or you can kind of do it on the fly. It doesn't matter. But I always give my board a title, so PD sample. And then I'm going to start a Meet. So I click on this icon here, and it says Start Meet. And what that's going to do is you can give it a password if you would like, to where only your students can get in it. Because in theory, if you don't give it a password, anybody in the world can log on to this and see the meeting. I never do, because why? So I always start the Meet. And up here you see the Meet number, 899-297-7483. That's what my students would join. They would join this Meet, 899-297-7483. And again, it's shown here. What I always do, because at this point in time, anybody who logs onto this meeting will be able to write on it. They'll be able to write on this from their computer. You'll be able to write on it. So I always turn it to presenter mode. You click this little icon, turn on presentation mode. Set yourself a password, 1234. Now, your students would have to know that password to be able to write on it. Once it's here, you're ready to go. Like I said, if you would like to, you can hold off on starting the Meet and create the board ahead of time. The choice is really yours, but that's how you do set it up. For this video, I'm going to have you join a Meet. So this is what your students would be doing. They open the app, and they're going to look and see if there's a nearby meeting. Nothing's really popping up, which that's okay. They can hit Join Meet. The Meet number, if you remember from the last video, was 899-297-7483. And I always post the meeting number on the board so they know what to do when they get on there. Now you'll see it says Watts only. I, as a student, I cannot write on this board. However, if the teacher, and I have this pulled up on my iPad or on your teacher computer, if I write on the board, it will eventually show up on the student's board. Hello. So you can see how powerful a tool this can be. You know, when I go to the next page as a teacher, I can write the next problem or the next message. The student doesn't see anything. They can stay here till they're ready to move on, and they can click the arrow, and then you can see what I wrote as a teacher. Okay, so number 37. 3 log base 10 of x equals 1.5. So what's the first thing that we should do? Somebody have an idea of one of the first things we should do?
I moved the 3 to like the exponent of x.
How did you do that? Why did you write that as log base 10 of x to the 3rd power?
Because that's just like the more simplified version of it.
And what's that property called that allows you to do that? Look at your little sheet. The power rule. And the power allows us to bring that number up to the exponent. And so now we have log base 10 of x to the 3rd power equals 1.5. How do I turn that into logarithmic form? Someone else. What'd you say? So what can I do with that 1.5? How do I turn a logarithm into an exponential equation? Here?
Would it be 10 to the 1.5 equals x?
10 to the 1.5 power equals x cubed. And all we did was turn that log from log form to exponential form. And now how do I get rid of an exponent of 3? What is your name? Not screwed it. Cube rooted. Good job. So we're going to take the cube root of each side. And so in your calculator, you can do the cube root of 10 to the 1.5 power, and that'll tell you what x is. favorite feature of this is at the end of the lesson, you can come up to this icon and you can export the entire notes, PDF, all pages, to your desktop, PD sample notes, hit export, and then there they are on your desktop. You can see the notes, so you can post these to Canvas for people who are absent or print them off to give them the next.
So why do I like this app? It gives me the ability to move about the classroom if you have an iPad, which allows me to kind of knock down the chatter and just get my way around to make sure every student's engaged. If you don't have an iPad, that's okay. It works very well with the smartboard. You can write on the smartboard and it'll then show up in the front of the class as well as on their computers if they're joined the meeting. I really like that you can move on to the next slide without having to wait for every student. A lot of times there's just one or two students furiously writing everything down and you can't move on to the next slide because they're not ready. This way you can move on to the next slide, start setting up the next problem while they finish up, and so you're not wasting a lot of transition time. Students at the back of the room can still see easily what's written on the board because it's on their computer. So they don't have to squint or move up to the front or guess. You don't have to worry about seating arrangement so much because they can see it on their computer. The ability to save notes is awesome. It makes absences much easier. Most of my students save the notes at the end of the lecture onto their desktop so they can see whenever they want, and then I put them on Canvas as well. And then lastly, they can collaborate. It's really nice. They can collaborate with each other, with the whole class, create their own boards. A lot of times I'll walk around and go to a student and say, hey, the password's 5678. I want you to do this problem. And they can use their computer to write the problem on the board and it'll show up in the class. And then I can just simply change the password on my end and now they're not a presenter anymore. And a lot of times what I'll do is make groups, and each group has to make a meeting. This way I can join the meeting, see what's going on, add notes to it if I need to or make some corrections, get out and go to a different meeting. So it allows me to interact with my groups when they're doing group work, as well as then I can export all the groups pages and we can see 5 or 6 different problems worked out within the groups all at once. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, it's free. So this is one of my favorite apps. If you have questions, please let me know.